Hi everyone, welcome back to the latest episode of Forward Thinking. We've got Chrissy and Charlie here. So today we're going to dig into ABM Analytics and really how to really think about ABM Analytics. What are the big pieces that you need to implement and set up to be able to report properly on how your ABM is working or not working, and just really how to get started with everything in the world of ABM Analytics.
Yeah. So let's just go straight into it for this one. So at a base level on your accounts, the first place to start is to think about how you track your account funnel. And we suggest doing that through stages. And so this would be a field on the account. It could simply be called account stage. And you would define what those stages are. So for kind of a typical SaaS model, you would see something very similar to what you might find in a traditional lead funnel, but this would be on the account. And you would use some insights on the account or the leads and contacts under the account or matched to the account to help you define what that stage is.
So what would all the stages be on the account then?
Yeah. So from the very beginning, I think the first one would be inactive. So these are accounts that haven't shown any activity in a certain amount of time. So for some of the, you could define what that might be. It might be like a typical sales cycle or like half of that. Then the second would be engaged. And so if a key part of that would be tracking your sales and marketing engagements. There are tools that you can help you do that, or you can simply do a tracking system in your CRM to just like score for those engagements. And so that's based on activities or campaign responses. There's a lot of ways you can get those details based on whatever tools you're using, but out of all of that, any account that has shown engagement in X amount of days will now be marked as engaged. The next one, is an MQA. And this is where you can set a threshold of when an account should really be followed up by sales or is showing enough activity where sales should follow up. And so usually this takes the same tracking of those sales and marketing engagements and then defining a threshold for when they should be tracked as an MQA. And you can do this through various tools as well, but this might be looking at also past analytics. So looking at your accounts with opportunities and seeing what are a typical amount of sales and marketing engagements or the scores that you see across the board. And this will help you define a great threshold for that.
Yeah, and it's kind of similar to how you would set up a MQL threshold, right? Like trying to really think about what is that type of activity or amount of activity that's going to really convert at a high rate if you send it to sales.
Yeah, and an account score can really help with this, and even tools like Lean Data can help you aggregate all of those scores across the leads and contacts for that account to roll up into one account score, which is really useful. And then across the board, like for the rest of them, is really just how you would track your accounts through their sales cycle. So typically you see like a qualified, and that means there's been a meeting or like a demo or early stage opportunity at the account that's open. And then opportunity, which means there's actually a pipeline opportunity that's open and that's for new business. And then customer. So if there's a closed one and they're currently an active customer, you'd want to track that. And then the last one, which is kind of what you would see on a lead funnel as well. But I think there's also should be cases where you can disqualify out an account, because through learning, the company may also change their go-to-market strategy, but there might be accounts existing that you find this will never be a fit for us. We go into a sales cycle and you find out that it's just fundamentally, not a great fit. And you can actually, track why they disqualified that account. So potentially if things do change and it is a good fit in the future, you add on a new feature or something, then you could actually reactivate those accounts.
And one of the good things about an account funnel is that you can actually build it 100% automated, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can do the same for a lead funnel, but sometimes you are reliant on like sales to change a status here and there.
Right.
But an account funnel, you should be trying to aim to not require any manual input to move through the stages. So obviously engaged, you're looking at touch points across leads and contacts. MQL is, some kind of formula to try and figure out based on those touch points which ones move forward, and obviously that can be automated. But then even the following stages, like the qualified, is there, maybe a stage 0 op, or like have they booked a meeting, etc. Roll up that information onto the account, then use that field to then determine where their account stage is. So a lot of this can be like 100% automated. So your reporting is just being built in real time, and you don't have any of the downsides of relying on sales, especially if they're already having to update stuff on leads and contacts. And then you're like, okay, well, now you could also update something on the account. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, totally. And a lot of the ABM kind of platforms out there actually have systems where you can put in all these rules and it'll actually automate your stages for you. So just something to know, where if you are using those tools, this would be, a great fit to define these and then put in the automation to set them.
All right. So what's next?
Yeah. So when everyone thinks of ABM, they usually think about target accounts. So not just accounts in general, but usually you work with your sales team to define a set of accounts that you're going to focus on or go after in a certain time frame. And so target account tracking is super important. It can be really simple, but just wanted to note a few things to keep in mind. So usually it's as simple as like a checkbox on the account to show who's a target account versus who's not. And then tracking the date it was selected, I think, is super important. This is something that we see get missed, but can be really useful. And you can even track this through like a custom object if you want to see people going in and out of a target account, or if you have tiered accounts where it's a top 10 or a top 30, you want to get insights into when they were selected and when they're not, especially when you let salespeople do this. So you can see kind of the cycle of accounts. So you're not always choosing the same accounts over and over. And then also tracking the number of days as a target account, similar to like an open lead where you have SLAs. I do think that target accounts should have SLAs as well. If you have a target account who's a target account for like a year or two, it probably means that you might want to cycle it out, especially if they're not showing if they're just inactive. And so tracking the number of days the target count is important.
Yeah. And on that, one of the things that was implied, but we probably should be a bit more explicit on it on the account funnel, is having date stamps there too.
Yeah.
Obviously entry into all of those different stages. So a date stamp for engaged, date stamp for MQA, etc., all the way through. And you can use the combination of those date stamps and the date last selected and the number of days of target account to really help you determine if you do have exit criteria for target accounts.
Yeah, totally. And that's something I think is super useful, as a lot of people are really confused. When should I not make someone when should I unselect basically a target account? And then lastly, there's different ways to track tiers of target accounts. Sometimes you have like top 10 that you're going after, or even top 30. But one key thing to know about target accounts is target accounts should not be your total addressable market. Target accounts should really be the accounts that a salesperson can go after in a certain time frame. And yes, they can select their top accounts, but really be mindful of like choosing everything as a target isn't really useful.
Not a target, right?
Not a target anymore. That's just your whole kind of universe. So there is the concept of a named account. So ones that should be sales's world to go select from, versus the target account. In this case, target account, make sure to keep it on the low side, just so that they're manageable.
And that's why having tiered accounts is useful, right? Because you can have less tier 1s versus tier 3s, and you treat them differently, in both from your sales motions and your marketing programs.
Definitely.
And then for the tracking side, one of the key reasons why to have that checkbox or any field that designates the tier or whether they're a target account or not is just, you're going to end up basing a lot of automation and segmentations off that, both in your marketing automation platform and in your CRM. It's, if you don't know and you're not able to report on or use that flag, then you're running blind. So you've got to have that set up. That's just like a prerequisite for doing ABM.
Totally. And being able to also, if you manage leads, being able to track that on the lead side is super useful as well. You can do this like ad hoc using domains or some type of matching algorithm, or you can use tools like Link Data or Engagio that actually do the matching for you.
Yep.
So once you have those two structures in place, you can have a lot of cool reports that you can run. You can actually look at your account funnel against your target accounts, where across your account funnel do your target accounts live, or even for MQAs that aren't target accounts. That's a good signal for a salesperson that maybe we should elect those in as a target account. Or you can even compare conversion rates against your target accounts versus non-target accounts through that funnel to maybe see, is our target account selection good, or is it not?
And even compare conversion rates within your target accounts, right? Like if you have multiple verticals that you're going after within your target accounts, you can look at the conversion rates through that and just be continually looking at the data and refining that account model, right? There are tools out there that can use predictive analytics to be able to help you understand, who should be within your target accounts, and they're great. But also, there's nothing better than your own data that you're seeing. Okay, what is actually moving through the funnel?
Yeah.
What are the different segments of these target accounts that are actually moving? Converting at a high rate, going through the funnel at a high velocity, that you're going to be able to get all of this reporting through the account funnel setup that you've done already.
Totally. All right. Third thing, account Whitespace. This is, we don't really need to spend too much on this, but the key thing here is it's great to kind of define the key personas you want to go after an account, and then track the people that fall into that persona. And then looking across your account, you can track how many contacts match to those personas, and then you can see which personas are maybe missing a contact. This is key because across your accounts, you kind of want to make sure you have the right people at those accounts. And this is helpful for a sales team or a salesperson, where they can actually go and target those key personas or go and find them. Marketing can help them do that with the data, but I often find that it's great too when the salespeople go and find that, because they can use tools like LinkedIn to actually verify, where with other tools, it's the verifications maybe a bit lower. And
I was just going to say, and one thing to be very conscious of is, if we are building out, like one of the big problems we find with ABM is, once you do start building out all of your personas across the accounts, they end up getting picked up by just random marketing campaigns, maybe when they shouldn't, and they're not opted in, they're not engaged, etc. And you end up seeing a pretty low engagement rate if you do that. So having an actual really coordinated plan on how you're going to address these new people in your database, and not just allowing them to just like kind of funnel into random acts of marketing. So as you do add those personas, make sure you are, adding the right opt-in status, or suppressing them from marketing, or doing whatever it takes to make sure they're segmented out of what they shouldn't be really involved in from a marketing point of view. They should really just be for sales to do hyper-targeted outreach.
Yeah, definitely. And say the fourth one is really around engagement. So like I just talked about, where you can actually track sales and marketing engagements, it's nice to kind of track that across your accounts and really get insight into what accounts have sales or marketing activity, what percentage is kind of split out between the two. I don't like fighting against teams, but it's just nice to see like you're having enough balance to that. Balance is key here. You want to make sure that marketing is touching those accounts when they can, and the sales is as well. And there are tools, obviously, that can help you do the aggregate or define a difference between a sales and marketing activity too. But the alternative to this is, if you do track activity on the account engagement, you can see which accounts don't have any. And so for a salesperson, this is really useful, like the inactives, or maybe they look at their accounts they are going after and they can see which ones, aren't active at all. It gives them some level of priority of who they should go after, or who they should reach out to. And the last one. So this can kind of go beyond, like, for a while, based on what your campaign structure is. We did a past podcast with Shanal Narayan, who ran the ABM programs at Everstring. He's now part of ZoomInfo, but we really talked about kind of ABM plays, and we broke down how they set up their ABM plays. And this is really just your campaigns for ABM. And as you know, campaigns usually don't work in a silo. There's a lot of different touch points that fall underneath that play, from marketing to sales, and being able to track all of that across like one ABM play itself, one kind of parent campaign, is super useful, because you're seeing how did that whole play influence our pipeline. And so the two metrics there that's good to look at is pipeline influenced and then pipeline closed. So you can track that whole play and see how effective it was for driving pipeline against your target accounts or your accounts in general, and also what revenue you're getting as well. So this is one thing to note just from a campaign structure. It's really nice to kind of have an overarching kind of play that you're tracking, especially when you have the ABM strategy, and be able to tie that influence back.
And I'd go one step further on influence and say, influence is part of it, but then looking at actual pipeline generated.
Yeah.
Because influence, you don't want to just acclaim influence when maybe it hasn't, but like ABM, because you're trying, a lot of the times you're trying to create something from nothing, right? Like you have this targeted play at this account, and it is holistic, and it does include lots of different aspects that, there wasn't an opportunity there before, and then you run this play into that account or multiple accounts, and you create multiple opportunities. You have a good, you should be able to say that you really generated that opportunity, not just influenced it, right? So the terminology there, I think, is important, especially when you're trying to really, prove and improve the AB or ABM programs.
Yeah, definitely. So that was our kind of ABM analytics structure. This is a starting point, right? So there's a lot that you can do behind that. But once you have these kind of this base set and this like foundation, you can then start generating some great dashboards to give both sales and marketing key insights into what's going on across your ABM strategy. So hopefully that was useful for everyone. We went through that quickly, but I think all of you could probably take away some great to-dos of where you can get started. So hope you enjoyed that. And so we'll see you next time on an episode of Forward Thinking. Have a good one.